Hi, welcome back to Faith and Conviction. I'm your host, Ray Harris. I want to welcome you to this week's Torah portion in our study of Torah this week. And it is Parashah, or portion 20. And again, it comes from the book of Shemot, or translated into English, Names. But we know the book as Exodus, and it's from chapter 27, verse 20, down through chapter 30, verse 10. And this is a very interesting section, and I say that about almost every one of these, but as I go along, here we are at number 20. This is the first time that I've actually found that the Hebrew word is going to get translated by two Greek words and bring us into an interesting course of study about what all these things mean. So I like the languages. I love studying this, and I hope that you can see a little bit of what I think I'm seeing this week and why it matters and why we choose words the way we choose them to understand what's going on. So the Torah portion and the key word is Tetzaveh. I think I said that right, but I may have got it wrong. And it means you are to order or you command. So forgive me on my Hebrew there, but that word, the Hebrew word, is the second word in verse 20 of chapter 27. Now, Strong's numbers on that are H6680. H6680. Now, when I went to look at Brown Driver Briggs, it really comes down to a narrowing of two definitions: to command or to charge. And I need us to remember these two ideas because that's what is going to get translated by the Greek. And then we're going to go find these Greek words in the New Testament, and we're going to see that with the King James and even with the Complete Jewish Bible, even the Jewish Publication Society, the way in which this Hebrew word gets translated carries a little bit different idea than maybe the definitions. And so I want us to keep in mind these things. And this is actually quite a bit that we're going to be going through. So I ask you to help me, just kind of pay attention to what we're going through, pay attention to these words, but also check out this page at faithandconviction.org, and I'm going to have a bunch of information below it, and that'll help you a little bit with some notes on this study. So we're going to our first verse, and that's Exodus 27, verse 20. And the King James translates it, "And thou shalt command the children of Israel." So shalt command, that's the Hebrew word. The Complete Jewish Bible says to order, and the Jewish Publication Society says shall further instruct. Now all three of these translate this Hebrew word a little bit different and carry a little bit different idea. But according to the study that I have, I think the word command better fits this verse. And we'll come back to the Greek here in a minute, and we'll take a look at some things. Now the next verse that I found, and this seems to be the only other time that the Hebrew word is found in this Torah portion, is found in Exodus 29, verse 35. And down there the King James has, "And thus shalt you do unto Aaron and to his sons according to all the things which I have commanded you," that God to Moses, "as I have commanded you." Behind that sits that Hebrew word. Now, the Complete Jewish Bible translates it, "Carry out all these orders I have given you." Now, that's a very important thing because I think the orders is very important, and Moses is to carry out those orders. Now, the Jewish Publication Society says, "Thus you shall do to Aaron and his sons just as I have commanded you." So, both the Jewish Publication Society and the King James, this Jewish Publication Society version of the Torah, and the King James match with how they're translating this. But as we have seen with the English, this time we're going to find that the Greek in these two verses is going to use one Greek word in Exodus 27:20 and another Greek word over in Exodus 29 verse 35, and they carry some different ideas with them. So let's go to Exodus 27, verse 20. It is Kai Su Sun Tadson Tois Huiois Israel. Now, the word that we're looking at is Sun Tadzon, and that's Greek number 4929. 4929. Now, that's in the Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament of Exodus 27, verse 20. And this word means to put into order or together, to arrange, to appoint, to give orders, as the Apostolic Bible Polyglot helps define, to arrange with others. This is the word that the Greek translators Now, they weren't Greek. They were Jewish men who translated the Hebrew Bible into Greek for those Jews who read Greek. And this was done by, this Jewish Publication Society is done by Jews who know their Hebrew and translate it into English. So the Septuagint and this translation in style are very similar. They're just taking the Hebrew into another language. Now, we look over at Exodus chapter 29, verse 35, and it's a different word for command. Now, it's connected to Greek word G1781, and that's anteleomai, and that's a verb, and that is to charge. So what we're finding here is that the translators, when they went from Hebrew to Greek in the Greek Old Testament, used two different Greek words. One Greek word to command, and the other one to charge. Now, this is actually going to become very interesting and very powerful when we see it over here in the New Testament, when we look at these exact same Greek words in the book of Matthew. So go to the book of Matthew, and go to Matthew 26, verse 19. And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed, is what the King James says. Had appointed. Now, the ESV has had directed. But what it sets behind those English words is the Greek word 4929, which we talked about, was translated from Exodus 27 and verse 20. Now, that Greek word is different. That is suntazo. Now, that is the idea of to give orders, to arrange, to make things done. Now, when you look at Matthew 26 verse 19, the disciples did exactly as they were ordered to do in order to prepare the Passover. But this word is set in nice contrast to what we're going to call the Great Commission found in Matthew 28. So go down to Matthew 28 and start at verse 19. And what is the Great Commission? And it is in the King James, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." Now look down in verse 20, because that's where we're going to find our Greek word. Teaching them, that means all nations, to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded. Now, that Greek word is not the Greek word found in Matthew 26, verse 19, which meant to give an order. This is the Greek word that means to charge. Now, remember, these two Greek words are variations of the Hebrew word. One of them meant to command, which is exactly what we saw in Exodus 27:20. You shall command the children of Israel. But down there in Exodus 29, verse 35, it comes across as to charge. Because when you read all of Exodus 29, Moses is in charge of handling Aaron and his sons and consecrating them and the priesthood. So while it is an order to Moses, in that order, Moses has the care, custody, and control of the priesthood in his charge. Now, this is very important because this shows the variation and the meaning of the Hebrew. And the Hebrew people, when they translated it into Greek, brought over that idea. Sometimes we lose that when we look at the English and we just see the word command, 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 command. So these are very important differences. So the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, which I have mentioned over and again as we've gone through this series, is a regular study tool that I use. Now, he and the Jewish translators for the Greek Old Testament really helped carry this idea across as being two different things. So the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, back in Exodus 27:20, says, give orders. And I'll have this down at the website at faithandconviction.org. You can see these verses. But then he uses give charge in Exodus 29:35. Now what's important is when you come over to the New Testament and you look at Matthew, in Matthew 26:19, he says give orders, or gave orders. And down here in Matthew 28:20, he says gave charge. He's being consistent the same way that the Greek words are consistent. So I want us to see how word choice matters. Because while it is a command to do the Great Commission, Jesus is actually drawing a distinction here when he makes something known to us. He gave very specific orders on how to achieve things for the Passover. But his disciples were given a charge to have the gospel in their care, custody, and control, and to take that out to the nations. There is a slight and significant difference in this word command, as we would find it in the Hebrew. So these are the powers. This is the power of sitting here and learning the Hebrew, seeing how it's inflected and what it means, and then coming over into the Greek, seeing how the Greek translators of the Old Testament, who are not really Greek, they're Jewish men who spoke Greek, or at least could read it, and then gave it to the Greek-speaking Jews of that day. And then you can see how it works in the Greek New Testament to understand these things. So we can study it in the English and understand that there are some very important and significant elements that we need to grasp. So this is the power of Moses, and it is the power of Messiah. And both of these things work together, and God allows us to see these powers within the languages. So I hope it's been a blessing to you, and until next time, continue to seek God, know Messiah, find hope.